YouTube! Welcome back to another discussion video, of which there are plenty on this channel. A lot of topics to be had, as the Yugioh community is one of the most eloquent, calm, and quite decent community that exists in the gaming space. Unbelievable! Kamani shafting the non-meta sheep yet again. How is my Blue Eyes deck supposed to do this? This game is actually unplayable. With the new update to Season 31 of Master Duel, yeah, you heard that right, Season 31, for a system every other game has had in place since day one, we're getting a rating mode. Essentially, this is kind of like a matchmaking-based system for players that have achieved Master 1 and can continue to grind each season with the hopes of reaching higher and higher rankings on a leaderboard with the potential to become the literal best duelist on ladder. So, Master Duel has finally completed beta testing. Give yourselves a big round of applause for taking part in this little trial. And now all of your gems and cards will be deleted and reset to make way for the real game. I hope you've enjoyed this beta cycle. For legal reasons, this is considered a joke, the concept of which is a bonding activity partaken by the human species to increase their social capital and psychological connections with one another. As always with my discussion videos, I'm going to give you a topic outline and round off with some of my personal thoughts and conclusions to take away from this. Takes of which that are never wrong. And of course, Patreon at the end, so make sure you subscribe this month to get yourself featured at the end of all of my videos. So let's dissect today's topic in complete depth. Number one, we're going to take a look at some of the community thoughts and deliberations online, mostly via the Twitter space, for some opinions on what you guys have been thinking about this, which of course you should also make sure to follow me on sex.com. Number two, we'll talk about the actual system itself, the reward structure or lack thereof in place, and what this actually means for the average player. Number three, we'll be looking at some legitimate criticisms of what this actually entails going forward in the future. Not going to go insane climbing to master again just to see whose cock is longer. Well, the thing is, if you're a European footballer, you may or may not have noticed at the European Championship 2024, being well endowed is technically a disadvantage. Is this just MMR but in Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, real geniuses today, they figured it out. This is in fact just performance-based ranking. Now, for the longest time, the most competitive players have been begging for something from Master Duel to incentivize and reward players for the determination to go higher and higher. A ranking system does achieve that. As it stands currently, getting Master 1 isn't exactly difficult if you are slightly above average and just play a meta deck. There is just a decent amount of time involved. Now, this is obviously a complete win for everyone interested in this kind of system. The problem is that the Master 1 player pool is, well, without actual raw numbers and statistics from the developers themselves, I would assume the highest rank of this game, the absolute peak of Yu-Gi-Oh, is going to be significantly smaller than most people think. Yeah, of course, I'm going to climb to the top 1 against thousands of people just to receive, nothing? 10 guys are going to play this for 1 month, and they will never touch it again. Now, I do try and keep my discussion videos reasonably well balanced and unbiased, but clueless. Every single competitive PvP video game is entrenched in the concept of performance-based achievements being the intrinsic reward of the gameplay. Have you ever heard of, like, League of Legends? A game that's free and offers zero power or resources for ranking. The reward system is the prestige itself. Human beings psychologically enjoy the spirit of competition, and the remuneration for hard work and success usually is the success itself, not the resources that it provides. Unless capitalism. I think the biggest takeaway from the people who are complaining about this system is that the objective net takeaway from this is that it is, all in all, a net positive. Nothing is being taken away from other players in the process of giving this to other players. And this is a crazy concept for some of those people to understand, but not everything is made and designed for you. There are things that are made for less competitive players, whether that be festivals and solo modes, which are definitely fine. But it's not like competitive players were complaining about the addition of solo modes when this came into place for casuals. And it's okay to not be the target audience of something. But is there genuine criticisms here? There are no rewards for rating duels? No thanks. Awarding things like gems is usually not a good idea for these type of things because it can cause frustrations for players who technically shouldn't really be trying to get to these levels and heights of achievement of the game, all the way up to Master 1, for example. Again, like I said, most players are not good enough to be there, and so front-loading a lot of rewards there can lead to frustrations because people will throw a bunch of hours and time, money at the game, and then just not get rewarded because they aren't good enough, which then is actually in turn bad for business because they end up leaving since they weren't able to get on that grind and obtain all of those gems available at the rating system. And this is why generally you will see at the highest levels of the peak of other video games, there actually is not that much in terms of resources, raw actual power to be gained at the highest level of those competitive PvP games, because in the end, the actual reward in and of itself, as mentioned, is the success itself. But I would argue that there should still be some kind of prestigious awards for players at the highest ranking, and I don't think they should be power related, but cosmetic. Because currently, as of writing this video, the only reward for getting rank 1 in the world for the rating system is a title. And not even a title for specifically rank 1, just I think it's like top X, like 100 or 10 players or something, you get a title on the profile screen of your Master Duel account, a place where no one looks, compared to something where you zone into a duel and you're playing against an opponent and they have, for example, a check mark, a special icon, special animated sleeves, or potentially a special unique mate. A good takeaway from this, for example, is in the Duelist Cup that just occurred, the World Championship qualifier, there is no difference in the cosmetic awards between the person who got rank 101st in the world to 10,000th. Yes, those numbers are not exaggerated. That 9,000 rank gap is the exact same reward structure other than that title. The cosmetic rewards are the exact same because you don't get the silver icon in Master Duel until you get top 100. But top 10,000 is the same as rank 101. Okay, next point of criticism that people have been lodging here is what about the casual content? Because very clearly this system is not for the casual player. This is for the unemployed. Well, first of all, as I said, in my opinion, I think this is a system that should have been in place since day number 1. So a little over 2 years since getting this. I mean, it's better late than never. But I suppose on the casual side, other game modes is something that people have been looking for. The simplest one that has been added semi-recently, I think within the last year or so, was the casual ranked mode. Well, it's technically not ranked, but it's adjacent to the ranked mode. You have the casual mode that you can queue up for. Now, usually what happens here is people queue up with meta decks that they're just practicing. No one is actually playing casual decks, whatever that means. And so without a clear and hard border as to what is considered competitive and what is considered casual, there really is this huge giant player base of Yu-Gi-Oh duelists that are all from different backgrounds and all from different mentalities and values inside of that video game, with no real way to discern between the person who's trying to, I don't know, win a YCS and the person who plays Dark Magician for fun, and not even with the optimal cards. And both players are valid, and both approaches to the game are valid, because there are multiple valid ways to engage with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just that when you clump everyone into the same pool of, like, you know, ranked, or even just the casual mode, there isn't really any way to differentiate between the two. And I'm sure you can agree that pairing up that YCS attempting winning player versus the casual Dark Magician player, that's not really a fair balanced matchup, which you could argue, well, that's what ranking tiers are for. But again, everyone is plugged into the same world in the casual ladder. Festivals were kind of a cool idea, and they are a little bit somewhat tied to your ranking at that time, but there's still other alternatives that we've seen that should maybe be expanded upon a lot more, like for example duel trials that we've seen a lot. There have been some really good ones. I had a great amount of time playing the GOAT format one, the 2010 one. The skill drain one was also hilarious as well, when you play the right cards for it and you know what you're playing against, and you at least expect that there's going to be a floodgate there. I know, crazy that sometimes floodgates can be fun. And the Nibiru one was also hilarious. One of my top viewed shorts on TikTok, which by the way you should follow me on, is from the Nibiru event. People do have an interest in these alternative crazy wacky game rules that I think need to be expanded upon more for the casual side of the game. I like to bring up Hearthstone as a great example of this. Tavern brawls, I think, were relatively successful, at least during the heyday of Hearthstone. I don't know if they're super popular anymore, but basically it's very similar to duel trials in the sense that there's always a week-long little mini event that's going on that people usually partake in by having these crazy different rule sets in place. It would be interesting if every week there was some random thing in place like, oh, this week every card in the graveyard is negated. Both players start with 0 cards and you're just top decking against each other. And obviously you'd have to ban a lot of cards for that because whoever top decks Snake Eye Ash wins, but you see my point here. There's just lots of room for experimentation that I just don't think is explored enough. And while the duel trials are kind of offering that, there's also this system in place that we're trying to take this back to, that I've been discussing throughout this whole video, which is the rating system for competitive players. But the casual side of things feels like there isn't too much going on. All right, so I apologize for making that last portion a little bit more rambly, but I suppose it was kind of tying in my personal thoughts and conclusions and to what I really think about this whole system and what to take away. Overall, TLDR, I think, obviously, this is a net positive and a great thing for anyone who wants to take part in this system. And me, myself, personally, over at my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Farfa, I will be trying to push as high as I can eventually when I do get Master 1 this season. So make sure you follow for that journey at some point. But obviously, I can understand people who don't want to take part in this because you really are just going to have to play Snake Eye, and that's your deck. You're going to have to play Snake Eye. Hopefully, Yubel's going to come to Master Duel soon. You never know. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on this update. Leave a comment down below with what you think should be the changes going forward and what you think about this edition in general, and whatever yappage you'd like to include to help boost the algorithm with a like and subscribe too. Thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, adios.